guys have been asking me how I make the cutscenes for my games, so I decided to make this video and walk you through my full workflow. I'm going to show you a few examples from my previous games, explain how I generated them, and then I'll walk you step by step of how I created the cutscene for this obsession movie inspired game that I'm working on. And if you're interested in watching the entire build of this specific game, I'll be posting devlogs on that as well. So don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. I've used this workflow in a few different ways. For example, in the previous Backrooms inspired game I built, I used the cutscenes at the start of the game to set up the story when the player runs out of gas. Then I used a cutscene to give the player a clue about the creatures in the woods. I also used a cutscene to explain the fact that the airplane had no fuel, as well as the surveillance footage found inside the backrooms for additional clues on how to escape. The preferred tool that I like to use for this workflow is Higgsfield because it has an MCP server and a CLI that I can connect directly to my Claude code. Higgsfield was also kind enough to sponsor this video, but I was already using their platform long before they ever reached out. So everything you will see today is my genuine workflow. There are other tools you can use in a similar way, but Higgsfield is just my preference because of its flexibility and adaptability. For example, I used the Higgsfield CLI to create the finishers for the Mortal Kombat game that I built. I simply click here to copy these instructions, then paste them into Claude, and then you authorize access to Higgsfield. Once that's done, you can give Claude the reference images directly in the Claude Code desktop app along with prompt instructions. Claude takes care of the rest for you, and you get a Mortal Kombat style finisher like this. Thanks for smashing that subscribe button. For the Obsession game cutscene, I use the Higgsfield platform directly for more control. For that specific part of the game, this is how the game starts. The player wakes up during the night, notices Nicole is no longer next to him, hears pounding somewhere downstairs, and gets out of bed to investigate. The first step was deciding exactly where the cutscene would begin and end. I wanted it to begin from the player's view in bed and end from the same standing position where gameplay would start. Planning that final frame before generating anything was important because I did not want the camera to jump when control returned to the player. I opened the game in Godot and used the playable level to capture my references. The first screenshot showed the starting position in bed. The second showed the player looking toward the empty side where Nicole should have been. The third showed the player looking in the opposite direction toward the flashlight. The fourth showed the final standing position. I also captured two brighter, wider screenshots of the bedroom. Those were not supposed to become extra shots. They were only there to give the video model more information about the room because the actual nighttime screenshots were very dark. Once I had the images, I brought them into Higgsfield. For this cutscene, I used Seedance 2.5 and uploaded the screenshots in the exact order that I wanted the motion to happen. Inside the prompt, I referenced each image directly and explained what its purpose was. Image 1 was the opening frame. Image 2 was the player looking right and realizing Nicole was gone. Image 3 was the player looking left. Image 4 was the ending frame where he had gotten out of bed. I also explained that the last two images were only environmental references. Then I described the movement in order. The player should wake up, look toward the empty side of the bed, react with confusion, look in the other direction, and get out of bed naturally. I specified that the camera had to remain in first person, that the player's body should create an outline beneath the blankets, and that his hands should occasionally be visible so the movement did not feel like a floating camera. I also told it to keep the bedroom consistent with the screenshots. The only lighting change I wanted was a subtle blue flash from the lightning outside. Most importantly, I told it that the final frames needed to match image 4 because that was the exact perspective the game would use after the cutscene. A few minutes later, I received the first results. And as you can see, it was really good, but not exactly what I was looking for. After processing a few prompt variations, I realized the problem was that I set the time to only 6 seconds. Once I adjusted the time, this is what I got. As you can tell, that is much better. But I didn't like the snoring at the start, and I also forgot to ask it to remove the debugging tools from the top left. So I used the Higgsfield video edit feature and asked for those changes. After a few minutes, this was our video. It successfully removed the debugging tools from the top left, but it was not able to remove the snoring at the start. I decided to download this version and ask Claude to add that cutscene to the game and take care of the snoring sound at the start. I also wanted to overlay the banging sound of the door so that it continues from the cutscene into the gameplay as well. This makes the video and gameplay feel like one continuous event instead of two separate scenes. Claude tested the transition, captured screenshots, adjusted the camera, and completed the integration in about 10 minutes during this test. Here's how the final cutscene with gameplay looks. So the complete workflow is straightforward. Plan the story beat and the exact gameplay handoff. Capture the real environment and characters from the game. Give every reference image a clear purpose. Describe the camera and physical movements in order. Generate a lower resolution test, identify the specific problems, and make targeted edits. Once the video works, integrate it into Godot by matching the final camera position and continuing the game audio across the transition. That is the workflow I've been using to create cutscenes without rebuilding every scene and animation from scratch. If you want to try the same workflow for your own game, you can check out Higgsfield using the link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.